Thank you for joining us today for Women in Leadership. I know I speak for the entire Chamber team when I say we are delighted to see you. It's just been too long. We haven't had this many members at a gathering since 2019, and it feels kind of normal. I'm Cindy Fry with the Columbus Chamber of Commerce. I want to thank you for observing the Commons COVID protocols by keeping a safe distance and remaining masked. We suspect most of you are vaccinated, but we don't want to take chances. Together, we're doing our part to ensure there are enough hospital beds for the most vulnerable, and that we are protecting the health of the children who are not yet vaccinated. As a community that cares, I know we can all survive an hour of slight discomfort in order to support those goals. I don't know about you, but I've been reading a lot lately. I've always loved good fiction, but I've found myself this summer reading women's autobiographies, and I want to recommend a couple of them to you. I think it relates to what we're doing today. Broken Horses is by singer-songwriter Brandi Carlile. She's a Grammy Award winner, maybe you're aware of her. Her family was large, very poor, and quite dysfunctional. She had a deep Christian faith as a child and a teenager. In the book, she describes how her beloved pastor refused to baptize her when she wouldn't denounce her homosexuality. Somehow she kept her faith and turned her pain into powerful songs of comfort and healing. I recommend you listen to it on Audible because she sings at the end of each chapter. Just a day after her autobiography, Just As I Am, was published, Cicely Tyson passed away at age 97. Cicely's family emigrated from her native Trinidad to New York City. She gained notoriety in film and television roles such as Roots, Sounder, and the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman. She used her talents to change hearts and minds. She was an outspoken advocate who fought for racial equality throughout her life. Finally, to end the trio, I read All In by Billie Jean King, the tennis player who won 39 Grand Slam titles. You may remember her from either the Battle of the Sexes in the 70s or the movie by the same title, the Emma Stone movie. She was a 29-year-old champion when she beat Bobby Riggs, who at that time was 55. Now this guy was a real winner. He was famous for saying things like he really liked women in the kitchen and in the bedroom. I mean, he was a real winner. She fought for equal prize money for female tennis players, and she lobbied for the federal civil rights law, Title IX, prohibiting sex-based discrimination in any school or education program that receives federal funds, and it had a huge ripple effect. I can't get enough of women's stories. When I was young, I really didn't have role models who had careers. In fact, my own father told me that women would never be successful in business because their monthly hormonal cycles made them too moody. So I think it's really important that we share our stories with young men and young women. Columbus Regional Health is underwriting the video recording today, and we'll send a link of the production to you when it's done. And I encourage you to send it to anyone you think needs to hear it. Let's amplify these voices. Today you're going to hear from Columbus's own trailblazers and game changers, who, much like Brandi and Cicely and Billie Jean, have used their careers to foster positive change. One was the first to advocate for a cross-sector systems approach to community problem solving, and that's just a small part of her enduring legacy as she worked to ensure that we could all have healthier lives. Another is a boundary-busting banker who campaigned for countywide public office while pregnant and caring for a newborn. and one is a trailblazer with an extraordinary list of professional accomplishments at Cummins. She is funny, smart, and fiercely dedicated to making Columbus better for all people. I can't wait for you to hear from them. But first, I would like to introduce Beth McNeely and Tara Board from Century 21 Realtors and Breeden Commercial. They're our sponsors today, and they have a word for you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Cindy. We love supporting the Women in Leadership Lunch, our Chamber of Commerce, and most importantly, celebrating these three remarkable, very deserving honorees. I'm Beth McNeely, and this is my dear friend and business partner, Tara Board James. On behalf of Century 21 Breeden and Breeden Commercial, we thank you all for your attendance today. No Women in Leadership gathering is complete without a quote from Brene Brown. Am I right? So I pulled out one of my favorites to share. A critical mass of brave leaders is the foundation of an intentionally courageous culture. Courage is contagious. Every time we are brave with our lives, we make the people around us a little braver and our organizations bolder and stronger. Century 21 Breeden and Breeden Commercial have been staples in the Columbus community since 1951. This morning I was trying to figure out 1951. What could I say? What else happened in 1951? 1951 was the same year that Sally Ride was born. And in 1983, Sally became the first woman in space. Pamela Melroy, one of the only women to command a space shuttle mission, would later say, "I knew I wanted to be an astronaut from watching the Apollo astronauts land on the moon. But Sally Ride cemented that belief inside me, that I could do it." She paved the way for women to work in space and made it much easier for other women to follow where she led. Now, we aren't astrophysicists at Century 21 or Breeden Commercial. While navigating a real estate transaction these days may sometimes feel like a disorienting jaunt through outer space, our culture was shaped by a courageous and brave leader who paved the way for many women to recognize that they had the ability, grit, and determination to run their own business. That courageous and brave leader was Jan Hexamer Gardner. In 1985, 2 years after Sally Ride became the first woman in space, Jan Hexamer Gardner took a seat at the table and became the first female owner and president of the real estate company that we know today as Century 21 Breeden. Jan devoted 40 years of her life to real estate and, more importantly, was wholly devoted to the numerous agents, most of them women, whom she mentored. Just as Sally Ride cemented the belief inside other women astronauts that they too could travel to space or lead a space mission, Jan exhibited courageous leadership and paved the way for many women to recognize the call inside them for courageous action. Tara and I are grateful that Jan believed in us and paved that path for us to follow. Courageous action is not reserved for those who travel to space or own their own business. Courageous action is showing up even in small and quiet ways. Having the guts to try something new, perhaps failing, but picking yourself up, dusting yourself off, and getting back in the arena. Jan passed away last month after a long battle with cancer. To the end of her life, she continued to pick herself up, dust herself off, and get back in the arena. We sponsor this event as a tribute to our courageous leader. Thank you again for allowing us to be a part of this event and this wonderful community.
Now it's time to hear from our honorees. I'm going to get started by introducing Jackie Franz.
It is an enormous privilege to introduce Beth Morris. There is no one more deserving of recognition as an outstanding leader. To put it succinctly, Beth is simply one of the best and most effective women or men I have ever known. And as the oldest person here, I can assure you that I've known a lot of people. She is bright, talented, energetic, warm, compassionate, generous, and has an outrageous sense of humor. I must warn you not to be fooled by Beth's somewhat diminutive size. I have often said, if brains and heart were proportional to stature, she would tower over all of us. Beth began her career in Columbus as a therapist at Family Service. Her leadership skills were quickly apparent, and for several years, she served as its executive director. As further testament to her effectiveness as a leader, she left that position to become executive director of the Family Service Council of Indiana. It was during this time that I met Beth, when she was an associate faculty member teaching psychology and social work classes at IUPUC. Beth essentially was the social work department at campus. She earned the confidence and respect of the department chair in Indianapolis and was recognized for her outstanding teaching. She was responsible for all of the social work practicums in Columbus. In this capacity, Beth was an amazing mentor, unfailingly supportive, while challenging, enriching, and inspiring future social workers. However, it was in her leadership position at Healthy Communities where all of her formidable leadership qualities were permitted to shine. Systems and strategic thinking, national conference presentations, and coalition building, to name a few. Volunteers in Medicine, ASAP, Breastfeeding Coalition, Community Medication Assistance, Healthy Lifestyles, Infant Mortality Prevention, Mental Health and Substance Abuse, Tobacco Awareness, and the Community Health Assessment. All of these have benefited from Beth's visionary and nurturing leadership. While keeping all of these balls in the air, Beth continued her commitment to mentoring young women, raising a family, being a community volunteer, currently president of the Parks Foundation, and nurturing friendships. Young, old, rich, poor, healthy, frail. Beth's gifts have impacted many of us throughout the community in a myriad of ways. It is my great pleasure to introduce Beth Morris.
Wow. I warned Cindy I might not be able to talk after hearing Jackie. Thank you very much. I think everyone can see why Jackie has been such an important mentor to me throughout my career. And thank you to the Chamber for this high honor. To be recognized with Lori and Hannah makes it all the more special as I think about the contributions you are making to our community. It's good to be with you all, and I echo Cindy's comments of thanking you for masking up. After years in the public health sector, believe me, it's refreshing and pleasant to be with folks who are taking the science of prevention seriously. As I reflect on my career, I recognize what Mary Catherine Bateson called the process of composing a life. My career path has certainly not been linear, and I encourage all of you to be open to possibilities that may unexpectedly appear for you. Going through the open door, as Doug Leonard, another mentor, calls it, where something unexpected emerges that may not be where you thought you were going. Be open to exploring these opportunities because you never know what might be possible for you. As for my own path, as Jackie said, I started out as a marriage and family therapist at Family Service, straight out of grad school. It was what brought me to Columbus. It was work I loved and found highly rewarding when one day, 3 years in, the door that opened was the role of executive director. I had no aspirations for a leadership or administrative position. I was clueless about how to develop a budget or fundraise or the myriad other tasks required. But I decided I trusted my ability to learn these things more than I trusted who might be my next boss. While that may be a rather cynical position for a 27-year-old stepping up to a leadership role, it worked for me, and I went through the door. Because I was so green in so many aspects of the job, out of necessity, I had to lean on my staff for their input in many of the decisions facing the agency. I remember thinking at the time that was a sure sign of weakness, that I did so frequently. But over the years, the ability to use the wisdom of the group and not feel as though I had to have all the answers has served me well and helped me to get the most out of others, as I hope they felt engaged and valued. After several years of sharing parenthood and a professional career, I found I wasn't able to be as attentive to my career as I thought I should be, nor as available to my children as I wanted to be. I've often shared the story of the pivotal moment when that realization hit me over the head. Our 4-year-old son was a natural homebody, and unlike his older sister, never really adjusted to any caregiver we arranged for him. At some point, as we were driving home and would reach a particular landmark, he started enthusiastically saying, "Almost home." One day, as I was leaving to drop him off at his sitter's on my way to work, we passed that same spot, and he said, "Almost nowhere." So I had a long talk with myself and with Ray, and decided our son's needs had to take precedent for a time. While I've never regretted that decision, it was a departure from the professional life I'd always assumed I would pursue, and that I had led Ray to believe was my path. It was another door I hadn't seen coming. I was fortunate to have Ray's support and to find remote work supporting the Family Service Council of Indiana. Several years later, when I was ready to return to in-person work, I was hired by CRH, first as in an EAP counseling role, and then in organizational development. When Deanne Olson made a career change, leaving the Healthy Communities job, I knew this was the one direction for me, and I'm grateful that Jackie and others on the Healthy Communities Council agreed. As I reflect on the years that with Healthy Communities, my thoughts center on the importance of working with and for people who inspire, whose vision is of a just world where each person is valued and shares in the responsibility of making a difference. Some of you may recognize that as the vision statement for Healthy Communities, and that vision certainly was one of the things that drew me to that work. Building a team to help realize that vision was a joy of my professional life, and it's my team over the years that I celebrate today. Together, we learned many important lessons of collaborative community endeavor, and I'll highlight one. When there's dissent in a group, the best strategy is to bring the focus of the group back on their shared mission. I saw this modeled firsthand by the late Dr. Sherman Franz, another key mentor, when the demand for services at the Old Volunteers in Medicine Clinic outstripped the capacity of the clinic staff. Some board members wanted to address this challenge by tightening eligibility, making it more difficult to become a clinic patient. Sherm gently but forcefully reminded us of why the clinic was created and encouraged us to find a solution that would respond to all in need. He didn't let us forget we were stewards of an important mission. Cindy asked that we reflect upon any regrets we might have, so I will share the main one. While numerous efforts were made over the years to involve the people we were trying to help in setting our priorities and developing our plans, and one of our guiding principles is to do with, not for or to, I wasn't nearly as successful as I would have liked in engaging minority and marginalized populations. This is why the work that Lori and Hannah and many of you are doing is so critical to our community and our world. We can't keep doing things with the same leadership and perspective that has dominated to date, regardless of good intentions. Cindy also requested that I include a call to action, and I would offer this. Based on the many lessons Jackie and Sherm have consistently modeled for us about how we should treat each other, about our responsibility to be accepting, non-judgmental, and inclusive, and about the importance of taking every opportunity to lift others up and to make the world a better place. In so many settings over their years in Columbus, Sherm and Jackie have called upon the better angels of our nature to take the lead. In his memory and in gratitude to all I learned from them both, I challenge all of us to keep this guidance in the forefront of our work. While I'm still involved in meaningful volunteer work, I'm retired now and realize, in the immortal words of Winnie the Pooh, quote, "How lucky am I to have had something that made saying goodbye so hard." Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm Tom Harmon, CEO of Taylor Brothers. And it's an honor to be here today to make this introduction. Cindy, thank you for allowing me to be a part of this, one of the few male presenters on this program, so I feel a little bit intimidated. But maybe next year we can have a few more male people present so they can recognize the talent that's in this room. I'm here today to introduce our second honoree, Hannah Omar. I met Hannah in 2011 when I joined a new organization in this community called Cameo. Cameo stands for the Columbus Area Multi-Ethnic Organization, and the purpose was to create an umbrella organization, connect 9 different existing organizations in this community. But more importantly, Cameo was created to spotlight the activities, talents, and contributions our diverse residents bring to our community. Cameo's purpose was also to help Columbus become a more welcoming community and serve as a gateway for our diverse citizens, not only to be welcomed in this community, but also to become a part of this community. I remember the first time meeting Hannah as a member of the Middle Eastern Association. She was dressed as eloquently as she is today, and always is. But I was taken back because I was expecting to hear a strong Middle Eastern accent. And what I heard was a New York City Bronx accent. I was totally confused and curious and asked Hannah why the accent. And she explained she was born and raised in New York and grew up in the Bronx and was proud of it. I soon learned that getting to know Hannah was like peeling back the layers of an onion. She is an articulate, talented, young woman with a fire in her belly to make a difference and leave her mark on everything she touches. She's not only excited to be a citizen of Columbus, but was excited to become a productive member of this community in any way that she could contribute. Her academic achievements include a BS degree and an MPA in political science from Fordham University and an MBA from Indiana University. She is fluent in English, Arabic, and Spanish, and certified diversity trainer. Hannah is co-chair of the Chase Indiana Council Board and the Chase Indiana Next Gen Board, and she is a governance board member of United Way of Columbus, Indiana. Hannah has the distinct honor of being the first woman public official to be sworn into office here in Columbus, Indiana by placing her right hand on a Koran. Her awards include the Columbus Young Professionals 20 Under 40, the MBA Culture Award from IU PUC, the Interfaith Excellent Award, and the Mickey King Award awarded from Cameo. An accomplished speaker and champion for diversity, Hannah continues to leave her mark on Columbus, Indiana. Today, we recognize a young woman who exemplifies the talents we are striving to attract to our community. She is an example of the talent you discover when you open your minds, your business, and your community to people with diverse backgrounds. Hannah represents the spice diversity brings to a community. I have watched Hannah in action as an activist, a speaker, a mother, a wife, a politician, and a leader in our community. Just think of all the contributions we would have missed if we did not open our arms of our community to this amazing woman from the Bronx of New York. Hannah, thank you for all you do for our community. So please join me in welcoming Hannah Omar.
Wow, that was a lot. I didn't know. I'd just like to thank the Chamber for this honor. It was completely unexpected. And thank you all for being here. Also, I'd like to thank my colleagues from JP Morgan Chase, my colleague Celia, who's here from Indy, and then my manager Jeff, who's here all the way from Chicago. Thank you guys for your support. And let me also thank Tom for agreeing to introduce me and just being a great role model for myself and countless others in the community. I remember when I first landed in Indiana about 10 years ago. There were two people I reached out to initially just to speak about careers, getting involved in the community, and really on how I can get my footing in my new home. The first person basically asked me what brought me to Indiana, and then subsequently went on to tell me in a nutshell I should probably return to New York and that I wouldn't really get very far here. She's not from Columbus, so you guys are good. And I'm not sure why she thought this. I mean, I have my reasons, but nonetheless, that conversation didn't go very far. The other person was Tom Harmon. Tom introduced me to the community through Cameo. He encouraged me to get involved, and he really helped me get my footing into my new community. Now, I say all this because there'll be people that will make assumptions about you and try to kind of dictate how far you can go on your journey. And then there'll be those that see massive potential. And it really is up to you to choose a direction and align yourself with those that see potential in you. Now, Tom was probably the first person to help encourage my participation in the community, but he certainly wasn't the last. And in these past 10 years, I've met a tremendous amount of amazing community members and colleagues that have really helped me in my journey and continue to do so. So when I was presented with this honor, I was asked if I could share a bit about my journey and what I've learned. So that was one thing I thought I'd learned throughout the years. Another really has to do with the work that we do, that many of us do in the community, at our jobs, in government, or wherever we may find purpose. And that is the work of creating a community or a society that we would like to live in. And that can mean anything from advocating for social justice, diversity, equity, equality, inclusion, whatever that may be. And what I found is things like that take time. So the question then becomes, how do I stay focused and not be discouraged and keep moving forward in the face of the many failures, setbacks, and disappointments? I found that for myself throughout the years, it really was about setting expectations. There's a quote going around on social media, I believe that Emmanuel Ocho posted, stating, "The reason most people fail is because they give up what they want most for what they want now." And I started thinking about this in terms of the work we do and its relation to time. And while doing so, recently I was also kind of listening to an NPR podcast on time. And they refer to the Khasi people of northern India. So these people live in a very wet and volatile climate. The region gets an average of 500 inches of rain a year, and many structures that are built either rot or get swept away by fast-flowing rains, and this also includes bridges. So the issue they come across is that travel from one village to another during high tides to avoid flooding becomes very difficult. So what the Khasi people have done is built these amazing bridge systems out of trees. You have these people that have intentionally planted trees along the river corridors, waited for these trees to grow, and then took the roots that would hang down from the branches and direct them or train them to grow across the river and then plant them on the other side, eventually creating living bridges that people can safely travel across. Now, this doesn't just happen in one's lifetime. In fact, the Khasi people have been doing this for the past 1,000 years. People are planning the building of these bridges generations before they can even be used. Right? So one generation plants the trees, the next generation weaves the roots, and once the bridges are ready for use, it is up to everyone to maintain and redirect the roots for future generations. Now, this story really encapsulates the idea of working for the benefit of a community that you may never experience, and one where the end result will probably never come to fruition in your lifetime, and doing the work anyway. So looking at the complete selflessness of these people, I started thinking about the work we do when it comes to building bridges between people and between communities, and the work we do to end racism and bigotry and inequalities and inequities, the work we do around social justice in all its forms, and not just in the community, but in the workplace, in housing, in education, healthcare. It becomes daunting. I don't think we can get to all the end goals in our lifetimes, right? There were definitely those people that worked on these issues in the past, and we're here now thinking of new processes and ideas to address the same issues. So as I think about my own journey, I do feel a lot of my expectations have changed. I mean, yes, there are things we can work towards that have meaning and we can get to an end goal, but in terms of big picture issues, it's about getting comfortable with maybe never experiencing those end goals in my lifetime, and doing the work anyway, and investing the time and energy anyway. So very much like the Khasi people, planting seeds so our future generations can benefit. So now when I think about my own journey, I think of it as a continuance of the many journeys that have passed and those yet to come, and working towards a society I want most as opposed to one I want now. Thank you all for listening.
Hello, my name is Toby Heron, and I'm honored to be here today to introduce a very special person. A person who has made an impact not only here in Columbus, but across the United States. And quite frankly, if we're really being honest, across the world. Her work to develop people, grow businesses, improve diversity, and help her community has been extremely successful. But it's also required lots of hard work. A BA in economics from Carrollton College, an MBA in finance and marketing from the University of Pennsylvania's Wharton School of Business, many career moves, and along the way, she found time to raise 3 kids, be a supportive wife, a daughter, a sister, an auntie, and a grandmother. And she did all of this while setting new records and beating business goals left and right. She's been an officer of the company, a vice president, a board chair, a market leader, and just about any other huge title that you can think of. Along the way, she also managed to sprinkle in being a founder of the African American Foundation of Bartholomew County, serving on several not-for-profit boards, mentoring students, and starting scholarship programs. I get a little bit tired just reading this. But for her, these kinds of things are just what you do. The person I'm speaking of is, of course, none other than Lori Thompson. Lori leaves a mark wherever she goes. And sometimes, if you know Lori well, that mark can be a little bit tough. But also, if you know Lori well, you know that any tough love you get is for your own good, even though sometimes it takes you a minute to recognize it. One of her former employees told me she may have been my toughest boss at Cummins, but she was my favorite. She made me a better person and a better employee. She always had my back and supported me. I couldn't have asked for anything more. One of the things that I love about this Women in Leadership Lunch is getting to learn more about all of these amazing women that we honor. Each makes their mark in a different way and on a different scale. Yet all are equally deserving, have great stories, and we are beyond lucky to have them in our community. Before I turn it over to Lori for her remarks, I have one closing comment from someone very special. Cummins CEO Tom Linebarger passed along his thoughts to include in my introduction today. Tom said, "In the announcement about Lori's retirement from Cummins in March of 2019, after over 40 years with the company, our former president and chief operating officer, Rich Freeland, commented that Lori has been a trailblazer and that she will no doubt continue to be one in her retirement. He was right. Lori made and left an indelible impact on Cummins in a way so many people don't realize. She was one of our first female plant managers and the first African American one. She grew our aftermarket parts business from a regional operation to a more profitable global operation, helping to launch and market some of our most successful products, leading our U.S. diversity initiative, and mentoring numerous employees during her career. She has applied that same passion to her involvement with the community, and we are fortunate that our paths continue to cross in our shared work to better support minority entrepreneurs in the county and the overall prosperity of our community. Congratulations on this well-deserved award, Lori. I now ask that you please join me in welcoming Ms. Lori Thompson to the podium today to share a few of her thoughts.
Wow. Thank you, Toby. Good morning, everyone. I want to thank Toby for such a fantastic introduction. I told her I didn't want to see it at the beginning because I was trying to let go. So that worked out real well for me. Thank you, Toby. I also want to thank the Chamber and the board members for this truly unexpected recognition, and also congratulate Beth and Omar on receiving this award. As Toby mentioned, I'm originally from St. Paul, Minnesota, the second of 6 kids. There were 8 people in a 2-bedroom home. The dining room by day served as a bedroom for 4 at night. My father was a porter and a cook on the railroad, and my mom was a secretary in the public school system. Getting a good education was an expectation in our family, as was attending college. My parents' perspective was that anything was possible, but I knew that they could not afford to send all of us to college. Fortunately, academics came easy to me, at least in high school. Graduating near the top of my class, I received scholarships to attend both college and grad school. In high school, I held several leadership positions, including senior class president. My dad sometimes referred to me as bossy. He would have been proud to know that really what I was a boss in training. I moved to Columbus in 1979 to work for Cummins with the intention of staying here for only 3 years. And as they say, the hits just kept on coming. And for me, those hits were new opportunities and increasing challenges. I held 15 different positions and retired just about 40 years as one of the 50 key leaders in the company. So how did a black woman with a liberal arts degree not only survive, but thrive at Cummins and in that old boy industry? I never let impediments, real or perceived, bother me. I was confident enough to believe that I could do whatever was asked of me. I put in the work to learn, collaborate, and deliver results. What I had going for me was this intense curiosity to understand not only what we did, but why and how it was done. And by understanding the details and the big picture, I gained context and could figure out how to solve problems and achieve our objectives. Before I go any further though, you should know, I met my husband here. We married and started our family in Memphis, Tennessee. Over the years, I've been so grateful for him for taking his role of fatherhood seriously. It enabled me to be a mom, in fact a soccer mom, and have the freedom to pursue my career. In a dual career, there's give and take, just as in many things. And while I love the work environment in Memphis, Ben was eager to return. And at one point, I accepted an assignment to return to Columbus, allowing Ben to advance his career. Happy spouse, happy house. Taking risks and big assignments was a hallmark of my career. Leading and growing the global parts business and interacting with our international people, leading the truck and bus business during a contentious time with a key customer, while increasing the diversity of the group and achieving record market share levels were just a few highlights. I was once told that everybody should have that one job in their career that takes their breath away. Well, for me, that job was becoming a plant manager. While I had never worked in manufacturing before, I'd led sizable operations. Like anyone here who has ever experienced success, someone took a chance on me and gave me an opportunity, and that's all I needed. To be successful in that role and most others, it was critical to have the right people on the bus. The importance of assembling a great team cannot be overemphasized. I hired people whose strengths complemented mine and would do whatever was necessary to make sure that we delivered on our commitments. In return, I developed, recognized, and helped them define challenging roles. I found that coaching others had a huge impact on the organization, and my personal satisfaction of seeing them succeed was immense. I didn't give much thought to what I would do in retirement. So upon retiring in 2019, I told my mother I would take her anywhere she wanted to go. Her trip of a lifetime was a Kenya safari. It was awesome. I also spent more time with my family and relaxed some, but sitting still isn't really, as Toby would say, my jam. So I joined the Heritage Fund Board to understand the needs of the community and later joined the Community Education Coalition Board. While raising our sons in Columbus, and still today, I've been concerned about the engagement or lack thereof of Black and biracial students. I'm also concerned about the achievement levels and gaps of these same students. To quote Maya Angelou, if you don't like something, change it. And if you can't change it, change your attitude. Don't complain. So, I've engaged with various groups to begin to change the plight of Black and biracial students and families in Columbus. Just as when I was working, I may not have the answer, but I know someone who can help us get it done. So beginning in 2020, the African American Fund has developed 9 scholarships to support students. They include IUPUC, Ivy Tech, and other schools as selected by the students. In late 2019, a group of parents collaborated to create Path to Success. It's to support students and their parents and expose them to new opportunities. One of those opportunities was the STEM Robotics Camp conducted by Purdue Polytech, which has been held for 15 years in 6 southern Indiana cities. This summer was the first camp in 15 years that included Black students. And finally, the Community Education Coalition has recently formed a guiding team to understand how we better support Black and biracial students and families in this community. Now, for anyone out there who may be thinking that this is amazing or even slightly impressive, just know I'm not a unicorn. There are some very smart people here, ready to learn and eager to contribute. To the people early in their career, I would say get involved now. It doesn't take much. And knowing that you have made a difference in someone's life can be very fulfilling. And to our community leaders, I say, access and opportunity is what you can provide. There's significant need in our community. I will be working to improve the plight of youth for years to come. My question to you is, what will you do? Thank you.
Wow. I feel grateful and inspired. How about a round of applause for all 3 of our presenters? Thank you, Lori, Hannah, and Beth for sharing your stories with us. And thank you, Tom, Jackie, and Toby for the heartfelt tributes. In honor of these fine women, we have made donations to the Women's Giving Circle and the African American Fund at Heritage Fund. And we have $100 gift certificates for each of our honorees donated by Viewpoint Books. There are some suggested reading on your table if you want to pick up a book and read about some outstanding women. There's some tips from Viewpoint for you. And before we wrap up today, just a few important reminders. We have delicious lunches for each of you. There is a vegetarian option, by the way. It's from Purely Paula Catering, a woman-owned business here in Columbus, and those are back to my right. I'll ask our honorees to remain up front. We want to get some photos of each of you, and I would be remiss if I didn't thank Breeden Commercial and 21st Century Breeden Realtors for your sponsorship and all your support. And I thank our great partners at Columbus Regional Health who've allowed us to videotape the presentation. And as soon as the production's done, we'll make sure you get a link to it. So it's so you're able to share it and again, amplify these stories. So I want to wish you all a wonderful day. I want to thank you for coming. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.